if you are watching right now, this was pre-recorded live and this is the replay. So welcome. I'm going to be making the Drinks at Tiffany's bag. Pattern and everything that I use is going to be listed in the description. This is what it's going to look like when she is all done. I'm going to just wait for my TikTok friends to jump on and then we will get started. Let me thread my machine really quick. My iron is bubbling in the background, so if you hear that, that's what it is. Hello, everybody. Hi, hey, Claire. Happy Monday, Erica. Hi, Laura. How is everybody doing today? How was your weekend? Hey, Darlene. Hi. Oh, that's so sweet, Laura. It's a beautiful day in Montana. I love hearing that. It's a decent day here in Hawaii. It's been raining for like a week straight and the sun's finally out, but it's pretty cloudy, so I don't know how long the sun's gonna last. You're like the bag making ASMR girly. I love that. I'm going to wait for a couple more people to join and then we will get started and talk about what we're doing today. This is the fabric that I'm going to be using. That's my iron going off. So this is going to be the exterior, interior, dark gray coordinating vinyl. We're going to use a dark gray zipper at the top and then we are going to use a pop of pink for the inside. So this is the newest pattern by Butterbags. It's available on my site. I've made a couple live. I'm loving seeing y'all's bags in the pattern group. So this bag has rolled handles. I went ahead and did one just to prep it before I went live, and then I'm going to go ahead and do this one live. Hey, Deanie, how are you? How was your weekend? This bag used 1/4 inch double-sided tape. There is only a small amount of hardware. I use 4 rivets, but it can be made without rivets. So this bag can be made without without any hardware, using 0 hardware. Hey, Michelle, how are you? How was everybody's weekend? Do anything fun? Great weekend. But why are they always so short, right? Tell me about it. I'm recording it this way just to give those who have not watched the video tutorial. The video tutorial is actually filmed from the top looking down, not at an angle like this is. But this will give people a little bit better of a look just with the sewing process. Getting ready for a 6 family garage sale. Nice. Yeah, I bet that's exhausting. I'm going on vacation next week, and when we get home, we're going to spend like 4 days cleaning out our garage and our attic and everything else. I went and watched granddaughters play volleyball. Nice. I love volleyball. Does she play in high school, college? Alright, so we're going to go ahead and fold this up. We're going to fold one end. This is going to give us our seamless edge. Kind of live, almost bedtime here in the UK. Yes, this will be up on YouTube later. Have a good night. What am I making? This is the Tiffany bag. This is what it's going to look like when it's done. It is a dome-shaped satchel. And then on the inside, that's what it looks like with the zippered pocket. So I'm just recreating this. This is just a restock for my site. I did too. They're still in elementary school. I love that. I got the pattern last night. I hope you love it. Thanks, Benita. All right, so we have our edges folded. I'm gonna grab some clips, and then we're going to fold down our sides. We're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to have a small gap in the middle, and that's going to just reduce the amount of layers that we sew over when we sew this all together. All right. Now that we have it all folded up, we're just going to fold it in half once more. Add some clips. So I'm going to align, these are going to be the bottom of the straps, and doing that little fold in the beginning is what's going to give us that finished edge on the end. So I'm going to clip that in place. I'm making my third one as we speak. I love that. I love that. Do you find that it gets easier and quicker the more you make? This pattern is probably one of my easiest bags that I put out, and they do come together, in my opinion, pretty quickly. I'm working on one too. Yay, happy Monday. Jennifer, this is the drinks at Tiffany's. Very much so. Okay, now that we have it folded, we're going to go ahead and mark the ends of our strap. I'm just going to use a small, put this over here, a small ruler and a friction pen. I'm going to make a mark in the center of my fabric. That way, as I'm sewing, I can see it instead of putting it on the side that I'm actually going to sew on. Making mine from all vinyl. This is going to be all vinyl too. I think it just looks so pretty. All right, I have a seam guide. I highly recommend a seam guide because we're going to be sewing over a row of stitches. So just to make sure everything is nice and straight and aligned, I recommend it. It's not necessary though. So we're going to start sewing on one end. And then come back the other side. We're not sewing all the way up though. We're going to sew up to where we made that mark and backstitch. This is just a little friction pin so it comes off when you rub it. Thanks, Creative Illusions bags. All right, so here's what we're looking like right now. And then we're going to fold this in half once more. And that is why we left a little gap in the center when we did the first fold, so that we don't have as many layers. So we're just folding it in half and clipping it down. That's going to give it the rolled layer, rolled handle effect. We grab some more clips. And then normally I would set this aside and do the other one, but I've already done the other handle. So we're just going to go ahead and go back to back and just finish this up. What are you making today? This is a Tiffany bag. This is the actual bag that I'm making. It's just a restock. All right, one more clip. There we go. So if you see on one side, there are just those stitches that we did on one end and then on the other end. And then on this side, we have the stitch all the way up. We're going to be connecting these two stitches. So we are going to be sewing in the same row of stitches, which is why I recommend a seam guide. But again, it's not necessary. You can just do a row of stitches right alongside. What color are you making today? Are you still doing custom orders? This is the bag that I'm making today. Yes, on the custom orders, sign up is still available when I get back from vacation. Whoever is signed up, I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of the orders and then I'm going to cut it off because I'm moving in June. I want to get everybody's custom order done before I leave, but then obviously I can't take any more because I won't have anything to make it with. We're going to send tools and make you wonderful things. Thanks. Okay, so I cranked my tension way high because I'm sewing through all these layers, and then I'm just going to go nice and slow. So we're going to start those row of stitches and then come all the way down to the end. And then we're going to back stitch. And then just go nice and slow. The pattern does have an alternative way of making the handles if your sewing machine just can't handle the thickness, and it's available in the video tutorial. Alrighty. There we are. And then I'm just going to take off the clips. It looks like I didn't start high enough over here, so I'm just going to do one more stitch. If you notice these flat ends, which is why we don't sew over them, this one is just a touch longer than this, and that just means that I did not start sewing down far enough, so I'm just going to add another stitch. Too easy. There we are. Just tighten. And then trim it down, and then I'm going to seal the thread with my lighter. Hey Janice, how was your weekend? So I'm just gonna fold this back so I don't get the vinyl and hit those little tiny threads with my lighter. Same thing over here where I started. Is your pattern released yet? Yes, it was released last week, so it's available. Hey Stacy. And then where's my other rubber band? I'm gonna go ahead and just rubber band this just so it can start getting that curved top. And set this aside. All right, next what we're going to do is the bottom of the bag. This bag is made with just a little bit of binding on the bottom. So we are not going to turn this right side out through like a pocket like we normally do. We're just going to add a little bit of binding. Let me get my tension back down. Hey Kayla, I'm good. Great going as soon as live is over. Awesome. I hope you love it. So we're just going to sew the interior bottom and the exterior bottom together. And then I'm just going to trim that lining down. It's easier for me because I use a cutting mat and a rotary cutter just to cut the fabric in a rectangle as well as the interfacing, and then just trim it down. I just followed you. What Juki walking foot are you using? This is an 1181. Thanks for following. There we are. And then now I'm going to find the center by just folding it down, adding a couple of snips on both the long edge as well as the short edge. Thanks, Apples. Hey, Gina. What are you moving to? You mean like where? Around like Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland, around that area. We're not sure yet. We haven't found a spot. All right, so there is our bottom. We have our center marks notched on both sides. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to go ahead and just mark the centers of the top and bottom for my interior and exterior. This is going to be beneficial when we're putting all of our pieces together to make sure everything matches up nice and perfectly. Yes, we're leaving Hawaii in June. So excited. Are you gonna keep making bags after you get settled? Yeah, of course. After we get all our stuff delivered, absolutely, it will return to business as usual. I'm gonna have to find a little hobby until our stuff gets delivered. It usually takes, I know when we moved here, I believe it took like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, something like that. It was less than 2 months, but it was more than a month. And I just like sat in the hotel all day and played with my dogs. I mean, I, did some sightseeing, but I'm the type of person, I love to stay busy. I can't just sit around all day. So actually I went to Home Depot and I bought like a circular saw, a couple of drills. I bought a couple other things and did like some woodworking until my stuff got here. Okay, so all of our centers are notched up. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the interior zipper pocket. Let me set all that aside, get my iron hot. You'll be a kept woman. Indeed I will. I told my husband, so anytime he travels for work, he gets what's called TLA, travel something allowance. And I was like, when we move, I'm going to need some TLA. I'm going to have my patterns available for purchase, but all of my like pre-made bags that I make, it's all going to be packed up, so I can't even like sell those, but it's okay. All right, so we have our zipper attached on one pocket piece, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other. You just want your fabric right side up, and then you want the zipper teeth side up, and just align it to the top of that and sew it down. Easy breezy. There we are. Now I'm going to take this to my ironing board and just give it a little press so it's nice and flat. I'm working on the Tiffany now. Yay! How far have you gotten? I get feedback from my testers whenever they test my patterns, but I love getting feedback from non-testers as well. So any recommendations that you suggest to make it better, easier, or faster to make, I'm all ears. I love hearing it. Just gonna add my zipper pull and then we're gonna set this aside. Oh, that went up a little high. Just got it cut out. I'm nervous about the rolled straps. Don't be. Don't be. I mean, it's, if you've never made it before, it can be a little bit intimidating just because of the thickness of it. I would just say cut out one first, or do one first. And then if it doesn't work for you, just go to the alternative straps. You can also use webbing. So for the webbing, I just fold it in half. Actually, I fold it, yeah, I folded it in a third of the way, and then I just folded this top over and sewed along the top. And then at the end, you just fold in one side at an angle, the other side at an angle, and then fold it up. You can tape this in place. And then you can go ahead and sew that to the bottom of the bag as well. And this isn't very thick. This is definitely not as thick as the vinyl, but it still has a lot of structure. So there's quite a few ways to make the rolled handles. There are a lot of finished pieces. I know, Deanie. I love seeing them in the group. Thoughts on using Decaville Heavy on the bottom? Yeah, you can do that instead of the Peltex. You absolutely can do that. Which machine do you? This is the Juki 1181. Oh, thanks, Deanie. This might end up being without handles and a makeup case. You can do that too. I posted this in the group over the weekend, but if you just omit the handles, and you can even make this bottom band a little bit smaller, like this one, and you can just make yourself a little cosmetic carrying case. You absolutely can do that too. This pattern is so versatile. All right, so we're gonna take one interior top pieces, and then we are going to center our zipper overlay. Press that down so it is perfectly straight. And then we're gonna sew around the outside. I like to just hand crank around my curves so my seam allowance is as close to perfect as possible. I'm gonna pause and pull my thread through. And then keep going. I'm going to be live all week this week, you guys, because I'm on vacation next week and I won't be live. So we've got today, we have tomorrow at, these are East Coast times that I'm going to give you. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday 6 p.m. Eastern, and then Thursday is 5 p.m. Eastern. Wednesday is going to be our subscribers only live. So if you subscribe here on TikTok, you'll be able to watch it. You always use the walking? Yes. Alright, I'm just pulling my threads through the back so I can knock them off. Hey, Yvonne. So here is our zipper overlay. I started somewhere, oh, right here. I think there's only one little double stitch, but when you pull your stitching through the back to knot it off, you don't have to back stitch when you start and then back stitch when you stop. But whatever floats your boat, do whatever you like. We're gonna get that fabric out of that opening. You do it so quickly. Dang, a robot. I feel like a little robot sometimes. You should see it when I'm not live. I'm just boom, 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 boom. Get it done as fast as possible. Okay, I wish I could remember his pattern so I could tell you what pattern. Oh. I missed the question. Deanie, are you able to pin that question? I don't know if it's too far back. Tomorrow we're going to be making the Aries by Knotted Threads Co. Wednesday we are going to be making a quilted drinks at Tiffany, and I'm not sure what we're doing Thursday yet. Last year my son bought me a nail gun for my birthday. This year he bought me the Tiffany. I love that fanny pack. Sally Tomato, the one that I make, the fanny pack that I make. I can't think of the name of the pattern, but I do know it's made by Sally Tomato. The name of the fanny pack is on my website, but I can't think of it. If you just do a Google fanny pack by Sally Tomato, it should pop up. It's like on the tip of my tongue. Ferris, thank you. Yes, it is the Ferris. All right, so we're gonna add some double-sided tape. That's gonna hold our pocket piece in place while we're sewing it. I want my zipper pull to be on that zipper teeth. I don't want it up or down or it'll get in my tape. I'm gonna go ahead and mark the center of my pocket. That way I can just line up my centers. So remember how I clipped the bottom center and the top center? I'm just going to line up that bottom center with the center of my pocket. There we are. There we go. And then now I'm going to sew around the inside of this box, and that's going to secure the pocket to the actual main panel. You want to make sure that your pocket pieces are open nice and flat because we're going to be sewing them in like that. If it's pulled down like this, you're going to be sewing over your pocket. You're going to sew that shut. Good afternoon. I can't pin comments. It throws them off. Oh no. Pull my thread through again so I can knot it off. I'm gonna try getting out. Okay. All right, I'm coming back to the set of my first stitches. Going to pull that out and knot it off again. So glad to see you here on a Monday. Hey! Yeah, I'm gonna be sewing live Monday through Thursday this week, and then I'm going on vacation for the rest of the month. So I figured I'd give you guys a little bit of content. I'm gonna upload all of my lives to my YouTube. That way, if you wanna watch some back while I'm gone, you can. All right, we are going to, with our pocket still open, we're going to cut the bottom flush. We're going to pull our top down to meet the bottom and then clip the sides in place. Just trying it again. It worked. When's your move? Around the 3rd week of June. And then now we're going to go ahead and sew these sides of the pockets down. We're going to do it by just pulling up the top so that we can see the side of the pocket and sew that down flat. We don't have like our pack up and ship date scheduled yet, but it's going to be right around the 3rd week of June. Worst case, it's going to be the end of June. But I'll probably have to stop doing lives, I think, like the first part of June. Because I'm going to have to start doing a lot of pre-packing. I do a lot of packing before the packers actually get here. Nobody's going to pack my stuff like I pack it and take as good care of it. So I like to do a lot of pre-packing. And that takes a lot of time. All right, I'm going to pull back the side and hit the zipper with my lighter. Zippers will unravel when you cut them. So anytime I cut them, if I can remember, I like to just seal it with the lighter. Even though it's stitched down, this is just kind of like a little insurance. All right, and then now what we're going to do is just to close the bottom of it, we're just going to baste it to the bottom of the main panel. There we are. Now I'm just going to redefine that center mark that we made earlier. And that is how we add the zipper pocket to the inside. What to do next? Let's go ahead and work on our bottom band. So here are the 2 interior tops, or interior tops. Here are the 2 exterior tops. So this is the bag that we're making. This is what it's going to look like when it's all done. So the next step, we're going to be working on our bottom bands. And because this seam allowance is so important in this step, I'm going to go ahead and draw my seam allowance down. My sewing machine doesn't have a seam allowance guide. So I'm just going to draw it for the interior as well as the exterior. You don't add a dab of glue where the ends of this one, not this one. Usually I do. So what she's asking is to add a little bit of glue right here. Usually I do, but because the pocket is so small, I don't find that it's necessary. But you absolutely can. For my larger ones, yes, I do. All right. And then while I'm doing this, I'm going to go ahead and install my nameplate at the bottom. So I'm just going to find the center of the band and install it. Right, that makes sense. Hey Arlene, happy Monday. I'm gonna make the center a little bit higher. So here's about the center. I'm going to place it a little bit above it, and I find the bottom. So if you notice, the bottom has a little bit of roundedness to it. The top is pretty flat. So if I pinch it, it's going to show the actual size, but as it looks rounded, so the bottom part is going to be a little bit shorter than the top part viewing wise, but not in actuality. So I like to do it just a little bit above, so when it's all done, it actually looks centered. Hopefully that made sense. So if you actually find your center line and you apply your tape, and then after it's done, it looks like it's a little bit down lower than the actual center, then just do a little bit of adjustments. I'm going to make a mark. How many bags you make in one day? This bag, I could probably do 4 or 5 in a day. These come together super quick. Okay. So if you see, it looks like it's a little bit higher than the center, and that's okay. We're gonna put these right sides together so that we can sew them down. And then we're going to turn the insides, right sides together so that we could sew those down. There we are. Get my iron warmed up. All right. We want our seams nice and flat. So we don't want that little pucker of fabric at the top, so I'm just going to open them up and sew them down. For the interior, I'm just going to take it to my ironing board and just press that flat with my iron. That way I don't have to do all the extra sewing. There we are. So now that seam is nice and flat around the edge. We're going to wind up sewing this to the bag and this to the bag, so we want that flat. How was your new recipe the other night for dinner? The bulgogi? My husband gave it a 7.5. Every time I make something new for him, I have him rate it for me. That way I know that I either need to try it again to perfect it, or I need to just stay away from it. So he gave it a 7.5, but then he ate a little bit of leftover last night and he was like, man, it actually tastes better last night than it did when I first started cooking it. So it was okay. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I think it was something about the texture. So I know that when I made the marinade for it, I used a food processor to grind everything up. You have to use like Asian pear and onion and garlic, and so I wanted like a paste, so I had to grind it all up. And I think I may have just put in either a little bit too much onion or a little bit too much garlic, because it just had a slightly bitter taste to it. It wasn't as sweet as it normally is. So it was okay, 7.5. I just made some bulgogi, which is just a Korean beef. All right, I went ahead and just marked the centers of the front and back, and then I'm going to go ahead and iron this flat. I'm just going to take it to my iron, which is right behind me. And then we're going to go ahead and install our handles. Yeah, whenever I make something, I like to go as authentic as possible and home make as much as possible. You can buy the marinade in the store, but you know how they have all those extra ingredients in it? Stuff that's gonna, give it a higher shelf life. I don't want that in my food, so I try to cook as fresh as possible with the least amount of ingredients as possible. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and mark the center of this band as well. You don't need any interfacing on the vinyl. No, the only part that I interface is the bottom. but you can if you want to stiffen up your vinyl. This is marine grade vinyl, so it's pretty sturdy. But I did make some carne asada street tacos last night, and those were delicious. I used the oranges and the limes on the trees in the back of my yard to marinate the meat. And then I made the corn tortillas. Corn tortillas are super easy to make. If you guys ever just Google the recipe, it's just the masa, water, and a little bit of salt. And then you just press them out and grill them. Okay, bottom bands are done. I'm going to set these aside and work on the handles. We're going to attach this to the exterior top of the bag. So I'm just going to use a little bit of double-sided tape to hold it in place. Living in Hawaii, I've tried probably 30 different places that sell Mexican food, and they all are thumbs down. So I make like my own homemade salsa, enchiladas, enchilada sauce. Like, I've learned to make Mexican food since living here because you cannot find a good Mexican spot on the island. Trust me, I've tried them all. Alright, so this double-sided tape is going to hold our handles in place while we sew them on, if I didn't already say that. Where do you live in Hawaii? I'm going to take the tape backing off. You want it to lay nice and flat. There we are. And then now I'm just going to sew along the bottom. Get my tension right. All of this time you've lived there for the last 3 years, yes. Someone needs to open one up. That's for me. Yes, I agree. I agree. Alright, so we're just doing a row of stitching along the bottom. Going to singe these little threads. And then I'm going to mark where I'm going to install the rivet to the center and then set this aside. We're going to do the same thing to the other one, sewing down the handles, and then we'll install the rivet. Did you make your handles? Yes. Yep. It's been so long already. I remember when you were talking about. I know. I know. It's a rivet with a V. This is a rivet. So you put one on the front and the back. There we go. Tape is holding that in place. Hi, Vivian. Happy Monday. Alright, so we're just cinching down those really tiny pieces of thread that are left behind. mark where we are going to install the rivet. Let me grab my hole punch. How do you add the rivet? Give me 1 second. You're asking really great questions. Right on time. So we're going to poke through all those layers of fabric. I'm going to grab the other handle and do the exact same thing. Are you starting to pack to move? No, so we're going on vacation next week, and as soon as we get back, we actually took the vacation at the end of May on purpose, or April. All of the month of May, we're gonna start prepping stuff. I'm not packing up my sewing room until like the very beginning of June, and we're leaving around the 3rd week of June. All right, so our holes are poked. Let me grab the rivets. So I need 4. 1 for each edge of the handle. So one has a post and then the other one just has the back for it. So we're going to put the post through the front and then add the back to the back. And I'm going to do that for all of these, and then we're actually going to set them when I'm done. These are 8mm rivets. The post is 8mm. I have this rivet press, but there's a bunch of different tools that you can use. You can do like a hammer and a little, some of the sets come with like a little tiny mallet with the hammer and you just bang it in. You have a handheld rivet press. This is a rivet press that I purchased from Gold Star Sewing. So there's a couple different ways to do it. If you do not have this, it's okay, you can still do it. There we are. This is so interesting. Thanks, Heidi. Okay, this is like the last prep step too. The next is just putting everything together. So I'm gonna just start working with one. I'm gonna grab my zipper. I use zipper by the yard, but if you're using a prepared zipper, you're just gonna wanna mark the center of it so that you can match it to the center of the exterior panel. It's easier for me to just work with one side at a time, so I'm just going to open it up. We're going to sew our zipper down, and this, let me show you, is the part of the bag that we're working on. So we're kind of putting everything together now that we've prepped all of our pieces. We're going to add the zipper. So I'm just going to, you can clip it in place. I'm just going to sew a couple stitches, replace it, and just keep going. And then I'm just going to hold my handle out of the way. When I get to about the center of the bag, it'll pretty much stay out of the way. Go. And then now I'm going to grab one of my lining pieces. I'm going to use the one where we installed the zipper pocket. Remember how we added a notch at the top and the bottom? We're going to match that up to the notch at the top of the exterior. This is going to make sure everything fits perfectly when we're done. So I'm just going to clip this in place all the way around. So I like to just do a couple to the right of the center and then a couple to the left of the center. And then I'm going to go ahead and go down to the bottom and match that up and then match up the clips. Just to make sure, again, everything lines up. And then we'll sew that lining down to the zipper. There we are. There we go. So now the inside and outside are sewn to that zipper. Gonna turn it right side out. Do I sell my bags? Yeah, they're on my site. I just finished a quilted version yesterday. Oh, I love that. I love hearing that. Did you quilt vinyl or cotton? Now we're going to match our bottom notches together for the inside and outside, and then just clip that in place. Vinyl. I love that. I really love the quilted look of this bag in vinyl. I actually have one. I haven't posted it for sale yet because I don't know if I want to keep it or not. But how cute is that? The vinyl just gives it like such a deeper dimension of the bag. I love it. That's probably my favorite way to make this bag. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do a top stitch around the top, and then we are going to base the interior and exterior together on the bottom. All right, top stitch is done. And the basting stitch is done. This is what we're looking like. You can kind of see it coming together. That's the top stitch. That's what it looks like on the inside. And then we're going to do the exact same thing with the back. So this is the front, this is going to be the back, and we're just going to repeat those steps. Hold my handle out of the way. My zipper went a little high when I was sewing it, so I just wanted to reposition it. Are you gonna miss Hawaii when you leave? I'm gonna miss certain things about it. The weather here is absolutely perfect. The island is just gorgeous. It's stunning. I mean, there's flowers that grow in trees. I'm not gonna miss the prices. Everything here is stupid expensive. And I'm going to enjoy being closer to my family. I mean, this island is so remote. And traveling, it just takes forever. So there's some things that I'm going to miss, and then there's some things that I am just excited to get back to when we get back to the mainland. There's no snakes on the island, so I'm definitely going to miss that. They also do not have Chipotle here, or Dollar Store, or Joann, which nobody's going to have Joann in a while. But they lack a lot of stores that are on the mainland. Do you use foam with the vinyl when you quilt it? I do. I sure do. All right, so we're just matching up the lining to the exterior, clipping that to the zipper all the way around. Making sure everything is perfectly matched before we sew it. Alrighty. Now we're going to open this up so we can top stitch. Pressing my seam out so I get that nice rounded edge. Match up those bottom center marks. Again, so we know everything is lined up. I like to do a 5 stitch length whenever I top stitch. And then I'm going to go down to a 4 when I base stitch. Alrighty. There we go. So that is the top stitching. Next we're going to add our zippers. So I like to cut off this excess on both sides. And then we're just going to line them up side by side. We're going to install one zipper on one side and then the other on the other side. And when I install my zipper pulls, I like to just put it on about half of the way down, like that. And then line up the other side the same way, using this finger to kind of hold that pull in place, and then push it down with that pointer finger. And that allows it to line up. There we go. And then you won't have a gap in your zipper when you put them on. All right, so here's the top of the bag. Now we're going to add that bottom band that we made earlier. Remember when we installed the nameplate? We're going to turn that wrong side out. I want to put this on upside down so that way when I fold it right side out, it's the right side. So we're just going to tuck this like that. We're going to start by matching that side seam that we sewed down to the center of the zipper. Clip that in place. Do the same thing over here. Line that side seam with that center of the zipper. And then we're going to match those center marks that we made. So here's the center mark on the band. Here is the center mark on the main panel. And then we'll just add a couple clips around the rest of the way. Nice tip, thanks. And then we'll do the same thing over here. We'll go ahead and match up those center marks. And then here. Somebody said that they accidentally sewed theirs upside down. What I would recommend doing if you are a pattern piece is directional. This one is not, it's just a solid color. Before you sew it in place, pull it down to see if it's going to be right side up or not. Do you share the pattern for the bag? Yes, this is the Drinks at Tiffany's pattern. If you just Google Drinks at Tiffany's pattern, butter bags, it should pop up. So you can stay stitch this outside band in place. I'm gonna go ahead and sew the outside and inside band at the same time. So we're gonna turn that right side out, tuck that in, and then do the same thing. Line up our side seams. And the reason why it's so important to make sure everything is lined up is because when this bag is finished, if it's not lined up, you're gonna be able to tell. So here's the part that we're sewing right now. We're sewing this bottom band to the top. And so if your center of your seam is not lined up with the center of your zipper, you're going to be able to see it when it's all done. All right, let's go ahead and match up our center notches. There we are. And then just clip it the rest of the way. Oh, let me get this puzzle piece. The same thing here. All right, now we're gonna sew all these layers together. I like to unzip it to give me a little bit more flexibility. There we are. I'm gonna go ahead and clip my thread where I started. Now we're going to go ahead and pull those bottom bands down. So we're going to pull it out for the outside, and then we're going to pull it down for the inside as well. I'm going to go ahead and start by matching up those center notches. Again, just taking the time to make those little center notches on all of your pattern pieces as you're sewing is just going to make sure everything lines up perfectly. Hey Lena, how are you? We're going to match our center seam to center seam. And then finish clipping it around. Usually I do this part in my lap, so it's kind of awkward to stand here and like hold it out like this and clip it in place. All right, last little bit. Now what we're going to do first is we're going to do a basting stitch around the bottom, and that's going to hold these two layers of fabric together. And then we're going to go ahead and do a top stitch along here, which is going to allow the top to lay nice and flat. It's also going to give it a really pretty finish. Just purchased the pattern. Oh, thanks. I hope you love it. All right, so let's go ahead and baste it. I'm gonna just stop and clip my thread where I started. So those two pieces of material are stitched together. Now we're going to go ahead and turn it inside out. And that's just gonna allow you to get to the top of the band to top stitch it just a little bit easier. Can you use a regular sewing machine to make a bag? Yes, you can. You would need to probably alter the rolled handles. The rolled handles are super thick, but the pattern does include an alternative way of making these that isn't as thick. All right, let's go ahead and do a top stitch. Going to stitch and turn until I get back to the beginning. And then after this, there's only 2 more steps to finish the bag. We're just going to add the bottom and then add the binding, and that's it. Clip the thread where I started, keep it nice and clean. All right, I'm getting back to the first set of stitches. There we are. Okay, so the top stitch is all done. Here's what that looks like. That's the row of stitching that we just did. While it's still inside out, I'm going to go ahead and add the bottom piece. And remember how we notched our center parts? We're going to go ahead and match those to the center that we have on that bottom band. So everything matches up. Let me pull my clips. There we go. So we have one side of the bottom clipped, and then I'm going to pull that up, match those notches again, and then clip it in place. All right, and then now what we're going to do with that side seam, we're going to match that up to the little notch that we made in the center of the short edge. Same thing over here. And then once those are matched up, if you just give it a little push, the rest of the sides all the way around will also match up, and then you can clip that in place. Now, anytime I sew a rounded edge that has multiple layers of fabric, I like to add some staples to it. And that's just going to hold those pieces in place while I sew them. And then once I sew them, I just take the staples off. So I'm going to staple right along the outside edge, and I'm going to sew below that edge. So I'm not going to be sewing over my staples, and then I can just take them out. Now, if you're new to sewing and you don't think that you can get through all of these layers, you can staple the whole piece together. Before I do that, I'm going to add the binding. So as you see, the edge of the material is raw. Sorry, I had a phone call. The edge of the material is raw, and we don't want that. We want a nice finished edge to our bag. So the binding is going to be sewn on to cover that raw edge. And I'll show you how I do it. I'm just going to line my binding up to that edge and then bring it all the way around. And then we'll staple all 3 of these layers in place, sew it down, remove the staples, and then flip the binding over to cover that raw edge. And then when we get back to the beginning, we're just going to tuck the tail in. There we are. And then I'm going to add some staples. The pattern is called Drinks at Tiffany's. So if you just Google drinks at Tiffany's pattern butter bags, it should come up. So I'm just going to add the staples along the outside, just on the curve. But like I said, if you want to staple all the way around, you absolutely can. Just make sure you take them all out when you're done. There we go. Then I'm going to do this side. Okay, there we go. So as you see, the staple is in the very top. I'm not going to be sewing over it. Let me get my tension right, my stitch length right, and then let's do it. Go nice and slow around that curve. Almost back to the beginning, so I'm going to trim my thread. There we are. Now I'm going to take out my staples. Are you using a Juki 1181? Yes, I sure am. There we go. That end is done. We'll do these over here. I was sewing on another Tiffany. I love that. They come together really quickly. Especially after the first, you know, anytime you do a new pattern, you got to do it once, maybe twice, maybe even 3 times just to kind of get the gist of what you're doing. And then, like, you can do it blind. Okay. Get my staples out of here. I'm going to just double check, make sure I did not leave any more staples behind. Super important. Just to take another second. Okay. So again, you see how we have that raw edge on the bottom? The binding is just going to be flipped over it and sewn down to cover that up. So that's the purpose of the binding. So we're going to pull it down. I have a bit of trouble getting the tension right on my... Yeah, it takes a little time, especially working with a industrial sewing machine. There was a big learning curve when I got mine. And it just takes time and practice, knowing where to set your tension knob, depending on the thickness of the material that you're sewing. I get it, trust me. So we're just gonna flip that over and clip it in place all the way around. The bottom is what's giving trouble, but I'll get it, yeah. Just go nice and slow. There's quite a bit of material on the bottom. You have the 2 bottom band layers. You have the 2 layers for the actual bottom, and then you have your binding. So it's definitely quite a few layers. All right, so that's what it's looking like. Just a couple more clips and then we're gonna sew that down. You have become my new inspiration. I love that. That is my goal. I want everybody to learn how to sew. Okay, binding is down. It's covering up that raw edge and we're just going to sew that in place. And because it's just one layer of fabric that we're holding down, I don't find that it's necessary to staple it. You absolutely can though. I'm gonna go ahead and trim my thread where I started, keep it clean. And that is it. That is how you make the Drinks at Tiffany bag. This is what it looks like all sewn down. And just turn it right side out and that's it. Yeah, this pattern is on my site. So it's also linked in my bio, my site. So if you go to the menu, click on DIY, you'll see all of my digital patterns. This is Drinks at Tiffany's. And then if you actually want to purchase this actual bag, it's on there as well. You can just search pink plaid Tiffany or plaid Tiffany and this will come up. So I'm just pressing out that seam so that it is nice and rounded. Just press it out all the way around. Oh, thanks for the butterfly. And that is it. That is the Drinks at Tiffany domed satchel with rolled handles. And again, there's an option to make this without rolled handles if it's just a little bit too thick for your machine. I'm using a regular sewing machine. I'll have to use heavy duty needle. So if you make the rolled handles, I would say yes. You may even need to alter it just a little bit. But with a regular sewing machine, there's an alternative method to making the handles that isn't as thick. So if you look at the thickness side by side, the thickness of the rolled handles are way more than the alternative. So this is an alternative method of making the shoulder strap for this bag that does not incorporate all of these layers, and that comes with the pattern, the video tutorial. So this is just something that I made for the actual tutorial, but you still kind of get that rolled handle look with those flat bottoms. But again, you do not have nearly the thickness that you're using. This bag can also be made with cotton with just a regular sewing machine, no additional needle to it. Let me grab it. So this bag was made on my regular domestic machine with cotton. Don't pay any attention to the pattern. I just used some fabric that I knew I wasn't going to use just to make sure that it can be stitched. And instead of using rivets, I just sewed down the sides and then I sewed up the center of the handle. Now I would have, if I did this differently, I would have made this handle with a little bit more thickness to it by using an interfacing. There's no interfacing in these handles and this is what they look like. But again, sewed it with my domestic machine, no problems at all. I think I omitted the zipper pocket, or I may have done it differently. Yeah, instead of using the zipper overlay, I have this technique in my TikTok as well as my YouTube on how you can make a zipper pocket without the vinyl overlay that this one has. So this has zero vinyl, zero hardware, was made with cotton and made on my domestic sewing machine, and it held up perfectly. So yeah, you can definitely make this pattern with a domestic machine. What about your shoulder straps? What about the straps? Oh, thanks. You know what happened? I actually, when I ordered from Joann in the past, I would order bolts and bolts at a time just to save a little bit on shipping. And they sent me this fabric on accident. They sent me a bolt of it. So I had it. And when I was looking through my fabric, I was like, what am I probably never going to use? And I got this. Thanks, Stacy. Thank you guys. Okay, I think I answered all of the questions. Thanks, Erica. Thanks, Lana Lou. What about over shoulder? Yeah, you can make these longer, and you can, for the shoulder straps, yeah, you can alter the pattern piece. You would just make it longer. What I recommend doing anytime you want to do it just these shoulder straps is grab yourself a measuring tape. Let me grab mine. Uh-oh. Grab yourself a measuring tape and then just measure to see how high you want it. So we know it's going to start right here. If you want them longer, just put the little tape up, bring it back down, and then you know how long to cut your material. This would be 24 inches to make them this much longer. If you want it longer, pull it up higher. So that's what I do whenever I am measuring my shoulder straps to find out exactly where I want them. Thanks, Joanne. Are you making something else? No, that's it for today. However, I will be live all week except Friday, right around this time. This is going to be the schedule. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is East Coast time. This is Hawaii time. If you want to screenshot it. So tomorrow we're going to be making an Aries bag. Wednesday is going to be the subscriber only live. So you have to subscribe to my TikTok. And then Thursday is going to be a regular live. But these two are available on my website if you're interested. The pattern is also available on my website. And then I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.